you want to become successful and you want to live up to the person who you want to become, you have to stop giving a shit. And I say this because everything that we have been taught about success is effectively wrong. The pain of having to put a mask on to be someone who you're actually not is probably one of the worst feelings that you can have. Trust me, I've been there, I've gone through that. In high school, when I had my group of friends, I always pretended to be someone who I wasn't, and I was always putting on a facade in order to please them and in order for me to actually be accepted by them and in order for me to actually feel like I was somebody in high school. But I dreaded it and I detested hanging out with them. But in order for my self-esteem to not be in the dumps, I would hang out with them, and in order for me to actually be accepted by them, I had to put on a facade, and it was a miserable time in my life, and I'm sure that tons of people can align and can really feel what I've gone through. I know I'm not the only one who's gone through this. I know it's a problem that a lot of high schoolers and just people in general go through, and I want to share my experience with it because now I am in a better position that I could have expected. By no means am I a multimillionaire just yet, but I am in a much better position than I would have hoped for. The story of me getting there was no Cinderella story, and it wasn't very easy, and I'm sure all of you can expect this and all of you can imagine it, but becoming successful requires tons of grit and tons of carelessness. It requires an insatiable amount of risk that you have to take in order to achieve said goals. And one of the biggest realizations that I've had that helped me achieve a lot of the things that I've achieved today was me realizing that if I wanted to become the person who I want to be in the future, I had to stop kissing people's shoes and I had to stop giving a fuck about anything and everyone. And of course, to a certain degree, you still have to care about certain things, but for the most part, you have to adopt the art of being stoic. And stoicism comes with pros and cons. It's like a double-edged sword. The negatives in life don't feel as bad, and you really don't let it affect you as much, but the good things in life don't really feel as good, I guess I could say. You don't get as much happiness from achieving certain goals as you originally would. For example, I very recently signed a client for my business, and instead of me being extremely excited about signing her, I was kind of, I wouldn't say nonchalant about it, but I was kind of like expecting it. I expected it. I was like, yeah, I mean, I signed a client. It's expected of me. It's a hygiene standard. I kind of correlate that to the stoicism that I have adopted to a certain degree, because by no means am I some sort of nonchalant dreadhead like you see on the internet. I am not like that at all, but I have adopted a form of being stoic. And in order to achieve greatness, all of the biggest entrepreneurs who I have personally gotten to know are very stoic to a degree. Of course, there are some exceptions, like for example, my good buddy and mentor, Josh. He's stoic in certain aspects of things, but he's also genuinely a pretty happy person. But yet again, there are some other people, like for example, Hayden Bunn, who's another buddy of mine, who knows Alex Ramosi, who's a lot more stoic than a lot of people that I know. So it just depends on who you are. Iman Gadzhi as well and Alex Ramosi are both extremely stoic people. And the moment where you stop giving a fuck is the moment that your confidence increases, your brain fog disappears, and your fatigue basically just goes away. I say this because it happened to me. Whenever I adopted the stoic mentality and I adopted the mentality that I just didn't give a shit about anything, everything just started aligning. My goals started aligning. Everything just became a lot more clear. And I believe that this happened because I was doing this for myself. And you want to know what the biggest brands all have in common, which I'm sure all of you are familiar with: Alex Ramosi, Charlie Morgan. If you're in the entrepreneurial world, you're familiar with these guys. They're all themselves. They don't try and put on a facade. The reason that Alex Ramosi is so loved across the internet is because he is himself. He always wears his tank tops with acquisition.com. He has a huge beard. He's jacked as fuck. He doesn't try to put on a mask to be someone who's actually not, because he knows that if he tries to put on a mask and he tries to put on this persona that he's actually not, it's going to be detrimental to his personal brand. And same with Iman Gadzhi. Iman is always himself. He has the hero archetype, but simply because that's who he is as a person. He isn't putting on some sort of mask, he isn't trying to pretend to be someone. From all the people who I have talked to that know Iman Gadzhi, like for example, Paul Daly, John Danes, they all tell me that Iman Gadzhi isn't putting on a facade. I really do believe them, because you can kind of tell. Us as humans, we can tell whenever someone's not truly being themselves. For the most part, we're pretty good at detecting it. So that's probably the biggest thing that I've realized, that all these huge brands and big names for people, they don't try and be someone else. There are people who try and be like Mr. Beast, who try and be like Iman. So if you actually want to grow, and this goes hand in hand with not giving a fuck, because whenever you stop giving a fuck, you can actually start being yourself and stop trying to put on a facade to please other people. you have to be careless and you have to stop giving a fuck. I promise, once you stop giving a fuck, everything will start aligning and everything will just become so much easier. In order to become careless, you have to destroy your limiting beliefs. Destroying your limiting beliefs is, in my opinion, probably the number one step to actually adopting this stoic and careless mindset. Not careless in a bad way, but careless in a good way where it's going to benefit you. And I think about it this way. In order to destroy limiting beliefs, you have to know what those limiting beliefs are. And it is way harder said than done. Trust me. I wish I could list off all of the limiting beliefs that I had before, but it's really, really hard to detect them. But it's also like this. You can't kill something that you don't know is there. So in order for you to destroy limiting beliefs, you have to get to the bottom of them. And how do you get to the bottom of them? By meditating and really understanding and asking those around you. The exercise that I like doing is I like thinking of a huge goal and a huge dream and making a vision board, for example. And if you laugh to yourself and you have a little doubt in your mind that is telling you that, are you sure that you can do this? That's how you know you have a limiting belief. I personally believe that I can become the world's first trillionaire. Of course, besides Mansa Musa, but that's besides the point. You have to be extremely fucking confident in yourself and you have to give absolutely no shits. And that goes hand in hand with destroying your limiting beliefs. Taking calculated risks also goes hand in hand with not giving a fuck, because whenever you don't give a shit about anything, take risks. And of course, I'm not at the point where I am taking every single risk that I should be taking. Like, for example, going up to a girl that I think is pretty at the cafe. I haven't gotten to that point just yet, but for business, I do take a lot of mediated risks. For example, I went to Scottsdale risking me getting kidnapped in the airport because that was the first time I ever traveled alone. Of course, this isn't just a bullshit example, but it's technically a risk. I risked starting a business. I could have lost all my money and I could have just been in the dumps and I could have gotten laughed at. I risked starting posted content. People who I knew from school and old peers of mine could have found my content, and I'm pretty sure they have found my content, and they could have made fun of me, but who gives a shit? So in order for you to achieve what you really want to achieve, you need to start taking risks, which goes hand in hand with just not giving a single fuck at all. So you really have to analyze what the worst thing is that can happen if you take this risk. And in my opinion, whenever the risk isn't my life or my loved ones' lives or something that's just gonna put my entire family in detriment, then I think it's a risk that's okay to be taken. I'm okay with gambling away all of my money. I'm not okay with gambling like everybody else's money. Like if I take out a loan or if I'm borrowing money from someone else, I'm not okay with it. But if it's my personal profit and it's my personal money, I'm okay with gambling almost all of it away. Of course, in a healthy way, like for a business or investing in a stock, probably not stock, but investing in a business. And drawing back to building a brand, people are attached to people who tell stories. People are attached to things who have something that aligns with them. For example, Iman Gadzhi is very good at doing this, because whenever he's showing off Big Day and Gadzhi in his vlogs, everyone wants to align and everyone wants to be correlated with Iman's lifestyle, because Iman's known for having a very lavish lifestyle, hot chicks around him, traveling all over the world. And whenever people see Big Day, they want to buy it because they correlate that to Iman's lifestyle. And this is just a heads up. If you're trying to build a brand and you want to be the next Iman Gadzhi or you want to be the next Mr. Beast, get ready to get ran over. Because prior to what I was saying earlier, if you're trying to be someone else who you're not, you're gonna fail miserably with your brand. And there are some exceptions, like people who are the Mr. Beast copycats, but even then, they put a little spin on their content. For the most part, really finding who you are and finding what's authentic to you is going to make making a brand so much easier. And it's going to make you stand out in an extremely saturated market, which everything nowadays is extremely saturated. Now, my challenge for you today is to take a risk. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. Just start that business, go up to that girl. It doesn't have to be you jumping out of a fucking mountain, for fuck's sakes. Just take a little risk. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. Just take a risk today. Like with everything, it's baby steps, and getting there is a process that takes time. So before you want to take a huge risk on gambling away all of your money on starting a business, take a smaller risk before to really just build up your risk-taking tolerance, which is kind of what I did by buying a course, starting a business, just baby stepping my way to actually building up my risk tolerance. And make that risk genuine to you. If it's posting a video and you're unsure if you want to post a video because you don't know what other people are going to think about you, this goes hand in hand with what we were talking about today. Stop giving a fuck about what people think. Post the video. It doesn't have to be a crazy video. It doesn't have to be anything cringy about you dancing or you doing some dumb shit on TikTok. Just post a talking head video on TikTok about you talking about whatever feels suited for you and about whatever it is that you want to talk about. If it's about business, talk about business. If it's about MMA, talk about MMA. If it's about dogs, talk about dogs. Just talk about whatever the fuck you want to talk about. Fuck what everyone thinks. Just be you. Think about it this way. Jeff Bezos didn't start Amazon because he cared about what other people thought. He started Amazon because he wanted to make a difference in the world and because he wanted to make an impact. Mr. Beast didn't drop out of college and start a YouTube channel because he cared about what other people thought. He did that because he wanted to pursue his dreams about starting a YouTube channel. And you're not going to become the best version of yourself by caring about what other people think. The only way to become the best version of yourself is by you doing the shit for you. Never fucking forget that. Now ask yourself this one question. What would everyone think of you if you didn't give a fuck? If you don't care, then my job here is done.